So I wanted to try to make a video that might be more controversial than my normal views, but I think that if you look at the world stage right now, modern times, current events, the temperature of this era, I think something is cooking, something is boiling that is irreversible. I thought for a long time that maybe there was a better way, but I think we are currently to this point. What is this point? This video is the call for a modern crusade, and it's kind of a response to the general temperature of ICE and immigration and just general thoughts overall in regards to how the church is handling this, the state of the nation, many different things. And so I wanted to start the conversation by asking, at what point is enough enough? Because I've asked myself that many times over the last couple of years, and I feel like a lot of people have been asking that same question, and we keep on asking that question, and no one ever does anything. Let me just go through a couple examples just within the last 10 years, to my knowledge. COVID. Let's just start there. Black Lives Matter. Critical race theory. Stealing elections. The murder of Charlie Kirk and attempted murder of Trump. Sexual predation with Epstein, Diddy, and others. Somalian fraud stealing your tax money. Funding other wars across the world. Pornography, social media, and AI epidemic. Millions and millions of illegal immigrants hurting our citizens and stealing our resources. I've had enough. And I think we need to rise up and fight back. Jordan Peterson said in a quote, "Bad things happen when good men hold their tongue, and I'm tired of holding my tongue." One step further, I would challenge you with the law of tacit approval. It's a legal term, and how I understand it is if you don't actively, intentionally intervene with words or actions to stop something wrong, you are liable to agreeance of such due to your inaction. The call is to intervene. Stop the evil, or you're the accomplice. Another quote, "The one not prepared for battle will always lose." And I feel like a lot of people like to look around nowadays and complain and be shocked by what is happening, but no one's prepared for battle. I think that needs to change. I believe that the modern era is ripe for a new crusade. Wokeism has so tarnished our history to make us believe that the Crusades was a great sin of the church. But rightly understood, the Crusades was actually a stand. It was the church saying enough is enough. It was the church fighting back after an Islamic takeover of most of Europe. The church purged the evil and reinstated Christ as Lord. I believe we are at the same tipping point nearly a millennium later. And this is why the last video that I uploaded, or maybe two, was about the ecumenical church. The church needs to band together, and we need to fight. The technical definition of crusade is to lead or take part in a vigorous campaign for social, political, or religious change. And I would say all of the above, demographically, culturally, and spiritually. There needs to be a crusade. In my opinion, MAGA has been good, but it's not enough. It proved that the silent majority is hungry for this. The church needs to unite and fight. But we are so fractured that we have no power. Christ says in Mark, if a house is divided against itself, that house cannot stand. That's Mark 3:25 in the NIV. So why are we so fractured in the church? We need the church to rise up and proclaim Christ is Lord. We are bearing the fruit of our past sins, and we must act now to save the future and to give our kids a legacy worth living for. We must purge our land of the evil. Now, I tried to write this all out because this can get very messy. So I'm trying to do this the best that I can, and I've thought this through. So if I'm looking to the side, that's why. But I wanted to kind of paint the picture on why I came up with this vision, and I think a lot of people are landing in the same way. I just wanted to speak my piece about it, and hopefully others will agree. America and the West that follows must be a Christian, law-abiding citizen nation or nations. America needs to be a Christian nation. No illegal immigration and no native citizens that hate our heritage or our God. No other religions, gods, or idols. No pride in other cultures to the detriment of our own, and no lawlessness and soft on crime policies. We need to be a land of law and order, and that law and order needs to come from the Bible. There is one God, Christ is Lord. But when did the decline in all of this craziness start with, immigration and wokeism and all of it? My hypothesis is that the precursor to the modern immigration crisis started with apostasy. I would draw all the way back to Enlightenment and modernity produced obstinacy. Society turned its back on God. Our apostasy then transformed into liberal egalitarianism. We are all image bearers, yes, that is true. But liberalist equity destroys meaning, purpose, and aspiration and is fundamentally nonsensical. Certain people are better at certain things. That doesn't mean that reality is inherently flawed. That means that God created reality to have competence hierarchy intrinsic to our nature. World War II was the last time, generally speaking, that Western society feared God, to my understanding. What followed was equity, comfort, and decay. Unfortunately, the church was not absent to these tragedies. The church on the decline compromised its convictions and started to let culture influence it rather than it influencing culture. The church had two options: slowly die in the ways of the old, or surrender truth to stay alive. This produced a lot of the Protestant consumerism, the seeker-sensitive movement, the prosperity doctrine, the liberal LGBTQ, whatever, woke ideology within different theologies and sects of the church and denominations. It's all came from that. Here's a truth of reality. Any sane, sound of mind, demographic, culture, ideology, and faith is fundamentally self-preservationistic. They want to preserve themselves. They want to protect themselves. Furthermore, the growth, increase, advancement, proliferation, expansion, and more of such is a zero-sum game. They must lose so we gain. When one accepts Christ as Lord, the devil loses a lost soul. That's what I mean. There is no everyone can just be happy. There is winners and there are losers. The utopian fallacy of all can be at peace is a lie. And there is no stagnation. Either you are growing or you are dying. Where we currently stand is in an Orwellian nightmare of warnings not heeded and lies believed. Liberal ideology is a poison, a cancer, demonological, the ideological lie. Liberals are the political manifestation of immaturity and complaining to gain power. Liberals cry evil when we use, quote unquote, it, and yet they unapologetically wield it against us. Give an inch and they will take a mile. Liberalism is compassion gone mad. So much so that they advocate for others that want their demise and hate themselves and their own people. That's how confused they are. There is a twofold existential threat on the church and the West as we know it. Number one, there is a foreign alien threat. Led in other people, cultures, and religions. They do not assimilate. They steal our resources. They harm our citizens. They disrespect our heritage. It says in Deuteronomy 28:43, the foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. That is a promised curse if we were to be disobedient to God. Rings true to nowadays, and I would say we've been pretty disobedient. The second existential threat is internal or native. Ideologically suicidal notions of my people, nation, history are evil and must be destroyed. These are the people that are American that hate America. They are confused to the point of advocating for those that want to destroy them. The Stockholm Syndrome manifests in reality. Their altruistic and sympathetic stance, virtue signaling, turns them into hypocritical Pharisees. They condemn the sword while sleeping under its protection. They want the benefits of force without the moral weight of wielding it. They are a cancer, a poison, confused, depraved, and godless. Literally, the fool. Fool means godless. When you mock the faith that built your civilization, it crumbles. And the barbarians don't break down the gates, the apostates open them. One step further, society has demonized, infantilized, and demoralized men, to where dangerous men are rare and boys, not men, are all that is left. One is enough. Psalm 94:16 in the NIV says, "Who will rise up for me against the wicked? Who will take a stand for me against evildoers?" John 10:10, the first part of it, Christ says, "The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy." Sons of former sires, your ancestors sacrificed their lives for your rights, freedom, and opportunity. Honor them and fight for what you have and believe. This is our time to take a stand. We need to unify as the church. There needs to be a new crusade. We need to be a Christian nation. We need to rise up and fight back. There is no more time to be passive. There is no more time to turn the other cheek. Evil is at your doorstep, and if you don't fight, you will lose. This is the call for the modern crusade.